Hello friends. A very intelligent student can top a written exam and still fail to become an officer. And at the same time, someone who may not look extraordinary on paper can still get recommended by the Services Selection Board, that is the SSB. So the real question is why? Why doesn't the armed forces simply select officers on the basis of marks, ranks, or written performance? Why does it put candidates through 5 days of observation, interaction, pressure, psychology tests, group tasks, and interviews? The answer is very simple, but very important. Because an officer is not just someone who knows things. An officer is someone who must lead, decide, endure, influence, and stay balanced under pressure. And that cannot be measured on an answer sheet alone. And that is exactly why the SSB exists. If you are serious about joining the armed forces, then understanding this is absolutely essential. Because the day you understand why the SSB exists, you will stop chasing tricks and start understanding what the system is actually looking for. If you have followed the earlier series, Uniform Ke Raaste, then by now you already understand the different routes of entry into the armed forces. And that is only the first layer. The next and much deeper question is this: how does the system decide who actually becomes an officer? And to answer that, we need to understand not just the SSB process, but the thinking behind it. Because the SSB is not a random collection of tests, it is a carefully designed selection system. And unless you understand the logic behind it, you will always misunderstand the preparation for it. So in this episode, let us answer the most fundamental question first. Why does the SSB exist at all? Let us begin with something very basic. A written exam can tell you certain things about a person. It can tell you whether someone has studied. It can tell you whether someone understands the concepts. It can even tell you whether someone is disciplined enough to prepare over time. And yes, in many cases, it can also reflect intelligence. But here is the limitation. A written exam cannot tell you what kind of a human being that person becomes under pressure. It cannot tell you how that person behaves in uncertainty, how that person responds when things don't go according to plan, whether that person can influence a group, whether that person can stay composed under stress, whether that person can make decisions when information is incomplete or ambiguous, whether others will trust him in difficult situations. And that is exactly the kind of reality military officers face. In real life, an officer does not get a neat question paper with 4 options and 1 correct answer. Real life in uniform is not like that. Sometimes you have to act when there is confusion. Sometimes you have to decide when there is risk. Sometimes you have to lead when people are looking at you for direction. And sometimes you have to remain steady, even when the environment around you is not. So yes, written exams are necessary, but they are not sufficient. And that is the first reason the Services Selection Board exists. This is the second point, and a very important one. The armed forces are not selecting students for a classroom. They are not even selecting people only for a job. They are selecting individuals who may one day be entrusted with responsibility, command, decision-making, team cohesion, operational pressure, and sometimes life-affecting consequences. Now, the moment the role changes, the method of selection also has to change. Because if the role demands courage, judgment, emotional stability, and social intelligence, initiative and responsibility, then the system has to find a way to observe all these things. And that is exactly what the SSB is designed to do. The SSB exists because the armed forces are not only asking who is academically capable, they're also asking who can be trusted with responsibility. And those are not always the same people. Now, this brings us to the heart of the matter. What is the SSB actually trying to discover? In simple words, the SSB is trying to answer one core question only. Does this candidate have the raw material to be developed into an officer? Notice the word very carefully here. It is not asking, is this person already perfect? Is this person the most polished? Is this person the best speaker in the room? Is this person trying hard to look officer-like? No, the SSB is not selecting perfection. It is selecting potential. It is trying to understand whether the person in front of them has the kind of behavioral foundation that can be trained, refined, disciplined, strengthened, and shaped into military leadership. That is a very different objective from simply identifying the brightest person in the room. So what does that mean in practical terms? It means the SSB is trying to observe things like how you think, how you respond, how you relate to others, how realistic you are, how self-aware you are, how balanced you remain, how naturally you function in unfamiliar situations. In other words, the SSB is not only listening to what you say, it is trying to understand who you are when you are being observed from different angles. Now, if this is what the SSB is trying to understand, then one obvious question comes up. Why not just take one interview and decide once and for all? Why 5 days? Why psychology tests? Why group task? And why so many layers? It's because human beings are not revealed in one answer. They are revealed in patterns. And patterns only become visible over time, across situations, and under different forms of pressure. A person may sound confident in one conversation but collapse in a group interaction. Someone may appear quiet initially but show depth, steadiness, and clarity over repeated observations. Someone may give very impressive answers in an interview, but reveal inconsistency elsewhere or everywhere else. So the SSB does not rely on one single moment. It uses multiple windows to understand the same individual. How you write, how you speak, how you behave in a group, how you react under pressure, how your self-image compares with your actual expression. The SSB is not looking for good performance. It is looking for behavioral consistency. And this is where many aspirants go wrong. They assume the SSB is something to be performed. So they begin preparing in the wrong way. They start asking, what is the correct answer? What should I say? How should I look confident? How should I behave like an officer? And the problem begins right there. Because the moment you start trying to look like an officer, instead of becoming more real, more aware, more stable, and more capable, you begin creating artificiality. And the SSB is designed to detect exactly that. Not because the assessors are magicians, no way, but because when a person is being observed across multiple settings, any borrowed personality starts showing cracks. A rehearsed answer may survive for 2 minutes, but a rehearsed personality does not survive 5 days. So if you are an aspirant, what does all this actually mean for you? It means something very simple and yet very important. Real SSB preparation does not begin with tricks. It begins with development, self-development. It begins with how you think, how honestly you see yourself, how clearly you communicate, how you function with everybody else, how you respond to discomfort, how you make sense of difficult situations, and how much substance exists beneath your ambition. Because the SSB is not merely asking, can this person pass a test? It is asking something much deeper. Can this person, with training, become someone others can trust and follow? And once you understand that, the entire meaning of preparation undergoes a change. Then you stop chasing shortcuts. You stop trying to sound impressive, and you start building the qualities that actually matter. So before you try to crack the SSB, first understand why it exists. Because once you understand that, you stop seeing it as a mysterious obstacle and start seeing it for what it really is. A system designed to identify officer potential. And that is where meaningful preparation truly begins. In the next episode, we'll go one step deeper. We will break down how the 5-day SSB architecture is actually designed and why each stage exists in the order it does. Because once you understand the architecture, the system starts becoming much clearer. This is Inside the SSB System. I'll see you in the next one. Jai Hind.